Howdy, folks. Justin here. Welcome to From Loser to Legend, Episode 9. This week we're going to be talking about Solo Arena and some draft tips and some tips just in general on how to play. And where this is the episode where we're going to take you from that guy up top who's only familiar with drafting, is that it gets drafty sometimes because his pants sag around his ankles, to that guy over there who never feels a draft, has heating, very warm, and also makes good picks in Solo Arena. So let's get rid of our title page here and get to work. Um, Solo Arena is one of the coolest things that Elder Scrolls Legends has going for it. Uh, the ability to pick up a game anytime you want, and draft cards you don't own, and get some pretty healthy rewards too, and play against the AI is an experience that is not found in in the our distinguished competition, for instance. And it's also just a lot of a cool opportunity to test your skill in the game, because you're going to be playing with cards and finding combos with cards that you ordinarily wouldn't see at all. I got to get my cat off the screen here. She really loves to draft as well. Um, and one of the things that I like most about it is that after there are rewards for finishing, and for the first several ranks of Solo Arena, you actually get enough gold to go ahead and do another one right afterwards. If you complete it, if you do well, you get a promotion reward. But even when you're at rank 1, the highest rank you can get in Solo Arena, if you have a quest, a daily quest that gives you, it says play 5 games with Scout or 5 games with Spell Sword, and you're skilled at Solo Arena, you go into Solo Arena and you pick one of the classes you have for your daily quest, and you get a new one of these every single day. You can go ahead and make gold that way still, in addition to the free cards, soul gems, soul shards, packs, legendary cards, all the cool stuff that you're getting from playing Soul Arena as it is. So we're gonna hop in. We're gonna do a draft together, and I'm gonna kind of guide you through my thoughts behind the draft process for Solo Arena. And this is at rank 1, um, which the same sort of tips are you know gonna factor into any Solo Arena run. They just are more important to pay attention to at rank 1, where the AI is playing constructed level decks against you. So you play your 150 gold or $2 if that's how you prefer to pay. And we got choices here. We got Monk, Sorcerer, and Archer. Now the class you select is a pretty important part of determining what kind of deck you should build and whether or not you're going to be successful in general, because Solo Arena punishes certain strategies a lot harder than it does other strategies. In Solo Arena, you can either play a strong and be successful with a really strong control deck, and I found the best control decks in Solo Arena are in Mage and in Spell Sword. Um, Oftentimes that simply means stacking guard creatures and prioritizing removal over everything else. Or you can play a blindingly fast aggro deck. You can do that in any color with the right cards, but it's more difficult in some than others. Uh, my favorite color in Soul Arena is blue. I feel like blue has a diverse array of options that can really lend itself to any strategy. And my least favorite color is red, although red does pair nicely with green and with blue for certain aggressive strategies. I think Warrior is the weakest class you can pick in Solo Arena. I would encourage you to never pick Warrior. And I guess I'll give Sorcerer a shout out as a really flexible option. The drain cards and the lethal creatures, as well as the blue removal suite, give Sorcerer quite a bit of flexibility. In this case, we are going to go ahead and choose. Let's go ahead and choose Sorcerer, just because we have two colors that do very different things, and we can take a look at why I'm picking each card.
The Sorcerer!
Now, I think just a general rule of thumb to keep in mind when you're doing an arena draft, something to consider when you're looking at every card, is prioritizing low Magicka cost cards over everything else, pretty much the entire draft. This is going to be the most beneficial strategy you can choose for most of the decks you're going to face against. Most of the AI decks are weaker to decks full of valuable small creatures that curve out than they are against having the right answer at the right time. Here we have a couple options. We have North Point Captain, which for 4 Magicka, gives you a 4/2 and a 0/4 for a total of 10 stats. But the card that impresses me here is Young Mammoth. Dropping this down with the Elixir on turn 2 or again just regularly on turn 3 will allow you to contest any opposing creature on the board. So you can play a more board control game with that card if you want. And in addition to that, it also trades favorably, or I'm sorry, goes face favorably. Does a lot of damage and can help race against an opponent if that's the course of action you have to take because of specific mechanics to that matchup or what have you. Ash Servant, I mean, is a card that is, in my opinion, sort of deceptively bad. I don't think it's unplayable, but I think, especially for our first pick here, Young Mammoth is just the best pick because it could fit into either, a controlling deck, a mid-range value deck, or an aggressive strategy. So we're going to take Young Mammoth. Um, Here, I think there's really only one choice. Prophecy cards are at a premium in Solo Arena because there are a couple of blindingly fast AI decks that are very fragile, very glass cannon, and having the right prophecy pop at the right time can be the difference between a win and a loss. And with the smaller deck size that you have in Arena, as well as no limitations on the number of a single card you can have, stacking, say, Camelorn Sentinel or Sparking Spider if you don't have access to the superior in every way Camelorn Sentinel can be something that you want to play to. Cursed Spectre's not bad. There are a couple decks, in particular Crusader decks and Battle Mage decks that the AI runs that having a silence effect can totally break what they're trying to do. But in this case, this early on, I think I'm going to go ahead and just take the Camelorn Sentinel, the most value for that cost that we can get. Here, Healing Hands, I shouldn't have to tell you, Healing Hands is largely unplayable. This early in a draft, especially, you want to just focus on creatures and removal. If we, Ash Servant is of course what card we picked up as a creature and removal. But in Solo Arena, I feel like the Young Mammoth is going to get a lot more value. It's kind of a niche case. Ordinarily, Ash Servant would be a pretty good pick. But Faerun Defender, and I know I just said it's not a good card, but that doesn't mean it's not a good pick in Arena. Faerun Defender or Camelorn Sentinel are the choices here. We currently have two 3-drop cards. Both these cards have Prophecy. I think that Faerun Defender is actually the pick right now just because the types of things that we would want to be doing with Faerun Defender, the extra one attack is probably less likely to make a difference than the extra one cost on the Camelorn Sentinel. Come on, Celine. I know you love drafting and you're angry we didn't take Monk, but so we're going to go ahead and take the Defender. Um, Here, we have a card, Ravenous Crocodile, that is not particularly good. Synergizes with some cards in Sorcerer in particular, like Daggerfall Mage or the Iliac thing, but those are unlikely picks. Tome of Alteration is likely to get us some value no matter what we do. Equipment is pretty good against the AI. They have trouble prioritizing targets, and they don't use silence effects as proactively uh, as a real player would. And in addition to that, they also have a tendency to not clear the board of minions that you could then buff later on. So you're likely to have a target for a card like Tome of Alteration. I think Lesser Ward is not particularly playable, so we're just going to go ahead and take the Tome. Okay, here Shocking Wamasu is an example of a late game card. It's like an Ash Servant, but a lot better because that 4 damage can really clear out blockers. Do a lot of positive things. Crystal Tower Crafter is kind of a hard card to build around in Solo Arena. You're not likely to get a whole lot of spells, and even if you do, not likely to have a Crystal Tower Crafter on the board while you're spitting out removal everywhere if that's your plan to survive. Stalwart Ally, great card though. Really tempted to take this. Our deck looks like it's going to be, at this point, it looks like it could be more controlling. Getting to a point where we can actually play Shocking Wamasu isn't necessarily something our deck is guaranteed to be able to do right now. So I actually think I'm going to take Stalwart Ally and keep it in mind as I proceed to look at blue and purple cards. Having guard creatures with a huge body on them is just super great because it's an effective card advantage because it allows you to trade into multiple opposing creatures. Here we have a couple options. Evermore Steward is not one of those options. But we have Wardcrafter for the flexibility of helping us make favorable trades, which is basically all we would do with that. And we have Midnight Sweep, another prophecy card, a card that disrupts both lanes and offers the potential for card advantage by trading into multiple opposing creatures. At this point, it's tough. Wardcrafter is really good, but I'm super tempted to take Midnight Sweep. And I think, on balance, Wardcrafter is probably a much more powerful card, but Midnight Sweep fits more in what looks like to be our role in this solo arena run. So we're gonna go and take Midnight Sweep. Fits what we're doing. It's not like we have a whole gluttony of a whole bunch of 4 drops. So we'll take Midnight Sweep. Okay. Now, Old Gate Warden is a example of a bad card that, in some cases in solo arena, is unbeatable. The AI has difficulty dealing with 0/5 regenerate creatures, um, and will frequently just completely ignore that entire lane after you lay one of these down and just strand one of their creatures there. Brutal Ashlander, super unreliable, although potentially very powerful. Dragontail Savior, though, I think is the pick. Again, kind of like Young Mammoth, capable of trading into multiple creatures if dropped at the right time in the right place, and also allows for that flexibility to get really aggressive if necessary. Okay, these are all just terrible cards for our solo arena deck. I think the pick is unfortunately going to be Shimmering Peddler, just because it is a body. You could theoretically kill someone with this, whereas a Brilliant Experiment and certainly Somerset Ori are never going to accomplish that. So we're going to take Shimmering Peddler just sort of because we don't have any other choices here. Okay, Baron of Tyr can be outstanding. The ability to give all your creatures guard can really screw up what the AI is doing, and I think this card is incredibly playable. Doesn't look great in our list right now though. Glenumber Sorceress is unfortunately a 5-drop that dies way too easily to a lot of removal. You can win the game on the back of one of these, but the potential blowout of dropping this turn 5 and having it die to a curse or a Murkwater Witch or a Charis Reaper, all of which are cards that the AI plays, is pretty. I mean, it's definitely there. It's also also awful against the Archer decks that the AI runs. So I think the pick is between Baron and Fate Weaver. Fate Weaver not a good card for most arena decks in general, I don't think. But excuse me, we do have a couple of prophecy, 3 prophecy cards already, and in a 30-card deck, it's a lot easier to pull that off. I think it's the kind of card that we wouldn't mind seeing in the late game to help refill our hand and continue to control the board. So we're going to go ahead and take Fate Weaver. Here the pick is obvious. Stone-Tooth Scrapper is another example of a card like Young Mammoth, although not quite as powerful as Young Mammoth, where you're getting more stats. I mean, like a 4 Magicka 4/4 with no other stats would be playable in Arena. When you're looking for cards that really offer you the potential to make favorable trades, a card like Stone-Tooth Scrapper is perfect because Stone-Tooth Scrapper has got a big body for its cost. It's gonna, it's a Yeti, right, from Hearthstone. It's gonna make some favorable trades, and if you're on the aggressive strategy, it's really aggressive too. Camelorian Hero just dies too easily, and Ravenous Crocodile. There are ways that this card supremely punishes you that I'm not interested in pursuing. So we're gonna go ahead and take the Stone-Tooth Scrapper. We have no spells for Abyssine Navigator. Farsight Nereid is not bad. It is a 3/3 for 3, and knowing if you're going to trigger Prophecy can make or break a game. But grabbing a Singleton Swamp Leviathan as a way to close out games is really tempting. So I think that's what I'm going to do. Again, this falls into the Stone-Tooth Scrapper, Young Mammoth category of cards that are just exceptionally powerful, based purely on their stats for their Magicka cost. Okay, now I think we are going to go ahead and take Imperial Armor. Not really playable. I'm really tempted to take the Fire and Defender just to shore up our early game a little bit. There are some decks that this will, trade 2 or even 3 for 1 against. And those are the decks that are most frustrating to play against because they can beat you on turn 3 or turn 2 if you've seen my video, if you don't have that early defense. A single Shocking Lamassu, though, would be pretty nice. Given that we're in blue and purple and there are a lot of options for guards and removal, though, in the late game, I'm tempted to go with the Defender, especially since we have the Fate Weaver and we have the Stalwart Ally. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Fire and Defender. I think Shocking Lamassu is a more powerful card, but you can kind of see here how we're having to adapt as our deck grows to the sorts of things we would need to do. Okay, here we go. We have an obvious pick. Night Shadow, just a supremely powerful card. Drain, very, very powerful in this game. Um, you need to play this knowing that the AI loves to kill Drain creatures. Will prioritize them over what a rational person might say is otherwise a more important target. But Night Shadow is just exactly where we want to be. A moment of clarity, it's worth pointing out, a fantastic pick against the slower AI decks, the kind of card that will win you the game a lot of the time. But Night Shadow is unrivaled here. Make it kind of a controversial pick here. Um, Again, Old Gate Warden has its moments, but we're looking pretty good on defense as it is right now. Redder and Enforcer, boring, playable. But Dwarven Sphere, the ability to shackle opposing creatures. Again, the AI doesn't deal with disruption to its plan very well at all, and will frequently push damage towards your face that they could use to remove a Dwarven Sphere that's going to ultimately 2-for-1 them because you've slowed them down. Just very playable. The kind of card I'm happy to get, just a good value creature, so I'm going to take Dwarven Sphere. Dumber Nightblade recently nerfed, still as strong as ever. One of the highest quality 2-drops you can get. The ability to get that Iron Sword in your hand to trade up with your crappy little creatures is unparalleled. So we're going to take Dumber Nightblade. Any card that last gasps is worth a serious look in Solo Arena because a lot of these games are won by a couple life points difference, and hedging, getting that extra value, that extra mile out of every card that you have is definitely worth it. Desperate Conjuring, Mage's Guild Retreat, Necromancer's Amulet. Okay, so we're never going given how our deck's going and we're halfway through it, we're never triggering Mage's Guild Retreat. It's worth pointing out, too, now that we have no removal, no direct removal at this point, so we need to prioritize removal. But Mage's Guild Retreat's just never happening. A Necromancer's Amulet, not bad. Desperate Conjuring, funny. The pick here is probably Necromancer's Amulet, given what we're doing already. We want to survive and then kill someone with a Night Shadow or a Swamp Leviathan at this point. Desperate Conjuring is going to be my pick because, the ability to combine it with a Fate Weaver or with a cached Swamp Leviathan that's about to die, or even a Dwarven Sphere or an almost dead Stalwart Ally, gives you quite a bit of potential value. But the pick is usually, in this instance, going to be Necromancer's Amulet. And we got a legendary here. Um, this is actually a really easy pick. Blood Magic Lord is the pick here 100% of the time. This card can win you the game, but if you are on a board position where you can play Devaith Fear on turn 11 and expect for it to survive for a turn and not be relying on its random 6 damage to save you from dying, you could win with a Swamp Leviathan or a Night Shadow. Blood Magic Lord has the potential for, first of all, it's coming down 2 turns earlier, which is super important in Arena. But Blood Magic Lord also has the potential to generate limitless amounts of value because the AI, unlike a human player who will swing their extra 1/1 into it to prevent you from getting an extra Blood Magic spell, that's not going to happen against the AI. Blood Magic Lord is at its best against the AI. Orb of Vermina, I mean, your opponent's deck is probably going to be filled with pretty good cards in Solo Arena, but Orb of Vermina, your 6-drop needs to do something. And this is not going to do anything the turn you play it. This, at the very least, is going to eat a removal spell or something like that, and could win you the game. Orb of Vermina is not going to win you the game. So Blood Magic Lord is the pick. Okay, now we're actually pretty tempted by Ash Servant, given the complete lack of removal we have so far. Our 4-drop spot's only got 3 cards in it, and we're pretty stacked on 2s and 3s. Lowland Troll actually better than it looks in Soul Arena. Again, the AI doesn't handle Regenerate very well or very intelligently. But Ash Servant, we need some extra removal, so we're going to go ahead and take that. Okay, this card, Tree Minder, is a trap. Ramp is not usually a playable strategy in Solo Arena at all. You would only take this if your deck could benefit from a 1/1 guard for 3. Can my deck benefit from that? It very well could, actually. It's a pretty fantastic Desperate Conjuring target as well, so we do have that little synergy there. Camelorn Hero is very aggressive. We're not an aggressive deck. Redder and Enforcer is not unplayable, but we do have a whole bunch of 2-drops already. Um, the ability to drop an earlier Night Shadow or Swamp Leviathan or Blood Magic Lord is appealing, but I think we're taking Tree Minder because, from the look of it, we're going to end up winning the late game with our more valuable creatures per Magicka cost than our opponent's going to be able to throw out. But I think playing Tree Minder as a 1/1 guard for 3, I mean, in its arena, it's not bad. The max Magicka ramp might matter later on, but I'm pretty I'm pretty okay with taking this. Camelorn here is a much more powerful card in general, but I really am tempted by the ability to both have a purple card for Stalwart Ally, have a guard creature, randomly use it for Desperate Conjuring, and randomly get our bigger game-winning cards out faster. Deadly Draugr is spectacular in Solo Arena. The opponent doesn't play around it particularly well. We don't have any silence effects, and we could use some silence effects, but as we have no removal, the ability to throw Deadly Draugr into a large guard creature against some of these slower AI decks is pretty important, so we're going to go ahead and take that. Here we have Mummify, which is the kind of effect we need one of against decks like Battle Mage that create a 20/20 creature. We need to have a way to deal with that. We currently don't. We could have picked up the Silence last time, but the Deadly Draugr I think sort of serves the same purpose, but Mummify is definitely a good card to pick. Midnight Sweep worth playing too. Suppress not the kind of card I would ever draft. Dwarven Ballista is pretty bad. His Speaker is not good, but His Speaker is another one of those cards that once you get familiar with Solar Arena, you learn that the AI will do almost anything to get this killed, including sacrifice an advantageous board position or waste a piercing javelin on it. So I think we're going to take His Speaker here. More 2-drops is never a terrible thing. Well, we have no synergy with Hexmage. We really don't have any use for Spider Worker. The pick is Brutal Ashlander, but I need to make sure we don't rely on that effect because I am the worst Brutal Ashlander user ever. Here, the pick is probably Venom Tongue. Venom Tongue is the only sort of creature, unlike Blood Magic Lord, where I've never seen the AI trade their creatures into it to remove it, or without trying to remove it. I have seen the AI trade creatures into a Venom Tongue before, just to get them out of the lane. I don't know if there's some other method to that madness, but I've seen it happen multiple times. But Venom Tongue is great for just clearing out blockers. The ramp is incidental, of course. But lethal creatures are always useful in Arena because there are decks against which having a lethal creature to remove a large blocker is essential, so we're taking that. Here we'll take the Dragentail Savior. We're not really excited about it, but it's not terrible either. We have no synergy with that. Lowland Troll, not bad, but honestly, having 3 late game bombs is good enough. I'm really tempted to just take a skilled Blacksmith. We have a little bit of synergy. We have a couple weapons in our deck between the Nightblade and the Tome. So yeah, we'll take the skilled Blacksmith. Soul Split, not terrible. Ice Spike, not really playable in Soul Arena. Crown Quartermaster is the card I'm looking at. It's easy to get into a situation where Soul Split's just not playable, and the Crown Quartermaster offers you some flexibility with that Steel Dagger it puts into your hand. So, and flexibility being sort of an essential quality to a deck that needs to be able to beat 9 different kinds of strategies, I think Crown Quartermaster is the card we're taking. Here, North Point Captain's just a lot of value. Having an extra guard creature to roadblock your opponent while also giving you a 4/2 to go face is a sort of mid-range card that I think our deck would benefit from right now. The Venom Tongue, we already have one. It's not like it's bad in multiples, but it doesn't get any better either. So we're just going to take the Captain. Here, Firestorm is the kind of card that you can just devastate some of these decks again with. So we're taking Firestorm. We have no removal really, so this is the sort of card we need. Final pick, Shadowfen Priest, the obvious pick. Imprisoned Deathlord, unplayable, to be honest with you. Black Rose Herbalist, basically unplayable. Shadowfen Priest, super flexible, and it's worth pointing out, can remove some of these special effects that the AI gets in Solo Arena. Didn't know that actually myself till recently, so Shadowfen Priest is the pick. Okay, so we have our deck. I'm just going to play through one match. Hopefully we win and this video looks good. But I am going to tell you briefly my strategy for my first round. My first round in Solo Arena is always, if it's possible, against a warrior deck. I feel like the warrior decks are generally the weakest, the most inconsistent, and it should give you the opportunity to get a handle on what your deck can do. So we're going to choose the warrior player and hop into the arena. Playing against Desert Warlock, the Creator. Let's see what happens here. Okay. None of these cards are stuff we want in our opening hand. We're going to mulligan, really aggressively in Solo Arena because having early game cards can make or break you. Sometimes these AI decks just get this incredible inertia that cannot be stopped unless you just really
I
slam down
draw
some early
power from
creatures.
these trees.
So our opponent's playing a ramp deck, which is actually a little frightening. We are going to go ahead and, yeah, we're going to go ahead and elixir out the Camelord Sentinel.
Be on your guard.
Just because it gives us the opportunity to play Desperate Conjuring next turn, if that sounds
I
interesting.
draw power from
Because the
these
opponent does
trees.
things like just trade it in, does our work for us. There's a certain advantage to playing those sorts of cards in Solo Arena. And now we're going to elixir out our Venom Tongue. And, you can see what we're doing here. We're generating card
I'm ready
advantage,
for
right?
anything.
Well, we were until right then. Now we're on,
Rice-skin fool.
we're even.
I draw power
But having
from
the
these
ability
trees.
to have our creature still alive after we remove an opposing creature is just invaluable.
Do
And
not vex me.
yeah, this lets us drop
The longer
2
the
Dragontail
odds,
Saviors
the
over
longer
here.
the odds, the sweeter.
And now we're ahead on board.
You must be cleansed.
Looks like he's gonna silence the yeah, that guy.
Rice-skin
Okay,
fool.
it's a good play from our
Glory,
opponent.
glory.
I'm going to perfect. We got Ash Servant now for some value. There is an argument for Desperate Conjuring getting us a 6-drop. Actually, I'm tempted to do that since we can lay down the Young Mammoth after we. Well, let's see what we get first.
Do not vex me.
Let's try to maximize our value here.
They dare face the Blade Mistress of Valenwood?
Elena Banach. That's pretty sweet. That solves one of our problems. And in order to keep that alive so that we can continue to control that lane, we're just going to do this because we don't want to do our opponent swing into it like that. And yeah, we're just going to go face. So that was a pretty great turn there.
The waters
Frostbite
of
Spider,
life.
Tree Minder, okay. So our opponent is getting close to being able to play some devastating things. I need to be aware of cards that they could be ramping into. This is an important part of this, being successful in Soul Arena is familiarizing yourself with every card in those colors because these decks play a whole lot of stuff. In this deck, I'm worried about Vigilant Giant. I'm not sure it runs it, but it seems like the kind of card that it might be running. My play this turn is going to be Fate Weaver,
Too late for
but
you.
I'm going to swing first to
For Valenwood!
see if there's anywhere I should be putting it. And we're just going to drop that fellow over there, that young woman, and proceed with our turn. Rampaging Minotaur
The waters of
and Tree
life.
Minder. Okay, so if they have Blood Magic Lord, that's probably their play for next turn. That's good. Some good plays from our opponent now. We have Firestorm, which is something to keep in mind. I think we want to err on the side of keeping Elena alive, so we're going to drop down just as many creatures
Looking
as
to
we
make a
can,
purchase?
spreading out our threats in case Nahag Leave comes down or something like that. And then there's the Vigilant Giant that I was talking about.
See them
Okay.
The watch
Now,
is
given
mine.
that we have so much power on board, we are just going to silence this and make our final push. And put this over here so that
You must be
we're less likely to just lose it immediately on the crackback from that thing.
For Valenwood!
Okay,
Another row.
so we're just going to try to finish this off here. We hit a prophecy. The creatures we want killed the most, we attack with last.
I live to serve.
Not going to get any great value out of Firestorm here since both our creatures are
my wares.
dumpster tier. But we are just going to swing, put our opponent to 1, and pass the turn. We should be able to win the game next turn. If we don't,
Kill them all.
that's on us.
Who goes there?
More guard creatures is
I
fine.
live to serve. The watch is
Yeah, we'll get
mine.
one. So we'll just swing that into there and kill our opponent like that and call it a night. So yeah, what we did here is basically what you need to do against these slower AI decks. Just outvalue them. We got to a point where our creatures were surviving in combat multiple turns because we drafted larger, high-statted creatures, and we made a lot of profit.
Which will the challenger pick?
Okay, it's hard to say no to Cunning Ally, even if it only triggers a third of the time, which is about what it looks like it would do. A spectacular card. That extra Firebolt is incredible, the sort of card advantage that our deck needs. Daedric Dagger doesn't really combo with anything we're doing. Not really a great card in Solo Arena. So we are going to take Cunning Ally. Anyway, that's a wrap. That was just kind of a walkthrough in a more detailed way than I usually do. My thought process behind Solo Arena and drafting for Solo Arena. I think it's a really cool thing that this game offers. I think that it's worth anybody's time. You know, they've made some big Direwolf's made some big changes to the balance of it since I started playing in May, and it's a great experience now, and the rewards are spectacular. So, thank you all very much for joining me, and I will see you on the ladder.